Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive. There are some stories, aren't there? They just sort of get under your skin and stay put. And more than just like a quick escape. They stick with you long after you're done because they feel, well, real, not just fiction.
Right, they hold up a mirror, maybe a distorted one, but yeah, a mirror to some uncomfortable truths about, well, us.
Exactly. And our deep dive today, it's plunging into one of those stories, a whole universe that on the surface seems like it's all jump scares and, monsters, Resident Evil.
And if you're immediately thinking horror game, just hold that thought for a second.
Yeah, please do. Because digging through our sources here, this isn't just about viruses gone wild or like scary bioweapons. It's actually this chilling look at fear. Yeah, but also at failure, systemic failure.
And power, the actual structures of power that shape things.
Right. As one of our core sources puts it, and this really sets the stage, there are stories that entertain, there are stories that disturb, but some stories dig under your skin and stay there because they were never just fiction.
Yeah, and that quote, it's not just a hook. It's basically our mission statement for this whole deep dive. We are definitely not here to just, pick apart the usual horror stuff.
No gore breakdowns today.
No, none of that. We're not ranking the creature designs or debating puzzle difficulty. Our focus is really specific. It's on the structure of that world.
Systems within it.
Exactly. The systems, the power dynamics, how power flows, and crucially, how all of that stuff mutates when things go sideways.
We want to pull out the surprising stuff, right? The insights you might miss.
And the real-world parallels. Because they are definitely there. It's kind of a shortcut, maybe, a way to grasp some really complex things about society, but through this lens, this unexpected, sometimes terrifying lens of a game series.
Think of it like learning to see things a bit more critically, maybe? Yeah. All sparked by a game that's way, way deeper than it looks.
Okay, so let's get into it. And you basically have to start with the big one. The entity looming over everything. Umbrella Corporation.
Ugh, yeah. Even just saying the name or seeing that logo. It's unsettling.
It is, isn't it? It's so clean.
Red and white. Symmetrical. Almost sterile, like you said.
Yeah, it doesn't scream evil corporation at first glance. It looks almost helpful.
Like a pharmaceutical company you'd trust. Or, I don't know, a high-tech research place. Maybe even a hospital symbol.
Precisely. And that, according to our sources, is the terrifying genius of it. It wasn't meant to look sinister.
Yeah.
No skulls, no dark colors.
No, it needed to feel familiar, like something you wouldn't question.
Yeah.
Trustworthy.
And that familiarity, that built-in sense of trust, that's what made it so incredibly dangerous. It was like an open invitation to disaster, but it looked like a helping hand.
So how did they pull that off? I mean, the mask was incredible.
Well, our sources really detail how effectively they built this facade. It wasn't just, we make medicine. Oh, no. They promised huge things.
Like what?
Actual breakthroughs in health, medicine, energy, big society-changing stuff. And their motto...
Oh, yeah, the motto, our business is life itself.
Right. It's audacious. It positioned them as, like, essential benefactors to humanity, the guys solving the big problems.
So they weren't just selling pills, they were selling a better future. Hope, basically.
Exactly. Hope, progress, health, prosperity, all wrapped up in that clean red and white logo. It was a masterclass in public relations, hiding something truly rotten.
But the reality, the actual delivery on those promises,
Yeah.
was the complete opposite.
A horrific contrast, yeah. Instead of health, it was death in vials.
Instead of breakthroughs, disaster in stages.
And containment, forget it. An outbreak that was never truly contained, it just spread and spread.
And this is the core idea, isn't it? The main takeaway from our sources about Umbrella, it wasn't just about a virus.
No, it was fundamentally about a system that profits from crisis.
A system that could hide behind the lab coats, behind the science.
Right. Smile in press conferences while experimenting in underground labs, doing unspeakable things.
And reading that, I mean, you can't help but think, doesn't that sound familiar? Alarmingly so.
It absolutely should, because if you map that idea onto, well, our recent history, the parallels are just stark.
Like COVID.
Exactly. Think back to those first few months of the pandemic. We saw right in front of us how fragile everything was, global infrastructure.
The supply chains just snapped, not just for gadgets, but for masks, for medicine. Critical stuff.
Critical stuff, and maybe even deeper, trust just collapsed. People weren't only scared of the virus itself, which was terrifying enough.
No, they were scared of how the systems would react. or fail to react.
Yeah, they were afraid of how their governments and corporations would respond to it, doubting the official lines, questioning the motives.
Wondering if anyone is actually competent or if they even cared.
Exactly. And in that context, suddenly Umbrella, this fictional video game company, it didn't feel so fictional anymore.
No, the lines got really blurry. The corporate horror felt like a commentary playing out live on the news.
It really did. It shifted from just a game to something almost like an allegory for what we were experiencing.
So, okay, let's crystallize this first part. Key insight number 1. The most dangerous systems. They often look harmless, familiar, trustworthy.
They promise solutions, safety, maybe even philanthropy.
While behind the scenes, they're profiting from the mess, or maybe even creating it. The smiling face, the hidden agenda.
And insight number 2, crises. They don't just break things, they expose things. They show the cracks in the infrastructure, sure, but also in our trust.
Trust in the institutions meant to protect us. Umbrella was the fictional version, but the pandemic showed us the real-world version of that trust breakdown.
Which leads to a really important question for you, the listener. Think about it. Beyond the obvious, what other systems or entities out there have that clean, symmetrical front, like Umbrella's logo?
But might be contributing to problems underneath, or profiting from them.
Right. Where else does that deceptive familiarity hide something less benign? And tied to that, think about this idea of the monetization of panic.
How does that play out today, beyond pandemics?
Are there industries or market trends, maybe political strategies, where fear or uncertainty is actually leveraged, turned into profit? It's kind of an unsettling way to look at things, isn't it?
Definitely. Okay, so we looked at the system, the monster that is Umbrella. Let's shift focus now to the human response. Because when that system did break...
When Raccoon City went down, when the nightmare spilled out.
Who actually stepped up? It wasn't the cavalry, not at first.
No, it wasn't the generals or the presidents making the first moves on the ground.
It was people like Leon Kennedy, a rookie cop, first day on the job.
Claire Redfield, just a student looking for her brother.
Jill Valentine. Okay, she's special ops, but still human, vulnerable.
Chris Redfield, dedicated STARS guy, again, just a guy. Ada Wong, the spy, forced into heroism. Rebecca Chambers, the young medic.
Think about them. None of them asked for that. None were trained to, save the world from a zombie apocalypse.
They were ordinary people in an utterly extraordinary, horrifying situation. But the key is, when the system fell apart, they stepped in. They had to.
And what does that tell us about leadership? Because the insight here is fascinating.
It really is. The core lesson Resident Evil seems to offer through these characters is that leadership isn't about authority, it's about presence. Meaning they weren't appointed, they didn't have a badge that suddenly made them in charge of everything. They were just there, present, in the middle of the chaos.
Our sources say real leaders emerge from the crisis, in those moments where there's no rule book left.
Exactly. When there's no protocol, no manual, no superior officer to call, what drives them then?
Instinct, ethics, just making a choice.
Just instinct, ethics, and choice. That's it. It totally flips our usual idea of leadership, right? Which is often so tied up in titles and hierarchy. This is more organic, human.
And that's why they resonate, I think. They're not superheroes.
Definitely not. The game doesn't give us invincible characters with magic powers. It gives us tired, desperate human people.
People who bleed, get scared, mess up under pressure, constantly hunted, usually outgunned.
Always on the edge of breaking down, physically and mentally. But somehow, they keep going.
They don't win because they're perfect. Far from it. They survive because, what was the phrase?
They stay awake.
They stay awake. They stay present, aware, engaged, even when everything is telling them to just give up. Like Jill in RE3, hunted by Nemesis non-stop.
Or Chris in RE5, battling not just monsters, but his own past and cynicism. Their survival isn't about superpowers. It's about sheer human will, refusing to check out.
So the insights on leadership here are pretty powerful. 1, real leadership can just emerge from ordinary people in extraordinary times, driven by ethics, resilience, necessity, not just a title.
They rise because someone has to, and they represent that core human spirit.
And 2, that ability to stay awake, to stay present and aware and ethical, even when things are completely falling apart, that's presented as a key part of survival. And leadership.
It's about fighting the external chaos, yeah, but also the internal urge to just give in. It's endurance, moral conviction.
Which makes you wonder, doesn't it, for you listening, when the normal systems fail, when the rules are gone, what qualities really matter for people to cope, to respond effectively?
Is it just bravery, Smarts, empathy, what becomes essential.
And how does this idea of accidental leaders, these everyday heroes, challenge how we usually think about who should lead?
Are we maybe too focused on the official titles, the resumes? Do we overlook the quiet resilience, the ethical core in everyday people who might actually be the ones we need when things get truly bad?
Okay, let's push this further into something maybe even more disturbing. Because Resident Evil doesn't just stop with contain the outbreak, especially later on.
No, it asks some really uncomfortable questions, like what happens when crisis becomes profitable?
When bioweapons are just another tech innovation, like just another product line.
When companies rebrand instead of taking responsibility, just change the name, sweep the bodies under the rug.
This is where, according to our sources, the story gets really sharp and maybe too close for comfort. Because Umbrella didn't really die, did it?
No. Raccoon City was destroyed, but the entity, it evolved, rebranded, shifted, found new ways to operate, new masks.
And the later games like RE7 and Village, they really show that, right? It's less about Umbrella the company.
And more about its children, its legacy, its infection of culture.
It's not just a biological virus anymore. It's like an idea virus, a system virus.
Exactly. A kind of viral capitalism that infects society itself, where the illusion of safety or a cure or an enhancement, it gets marketed like a product.
Like those bio enhancements in the games. Presented as gifts, but really.
Really, they create dependency, they profit from the vulnerability they might have even caused. The solution becomes the new commodity, the new control mechanism.
And connecting that to our world? Wow, the echoes are loud. This isn't just game stuff.
Not at all. We see versions of this viral capitalism everywhere. Think about medical patents protected at the expense of access.
Right. Life-saving drugs priced out of reach for millions because of profit motives, even if public money helped develop them. Patent evergreening.
Or think about tech firms using fear to push surveillance, convincing us we need to trade privacy for security, then monetizing that fear, that data.
Creating markets based on our anxiety.
And the whole trend of governments outsourcing health to private companies, turning public well-being into just another market.
Where profit, not people, can become the bottom line. The parallels are. Yeah, they're stark.
And that's the crucial insight. The virus wasn't the only mutation. The economy mutated too.
Capitalism itself changes shape, adapting to monetize fear, crisis.
Selling safety or solutions that actually keep the underlying problem going, because that's where the profit is. It's a feedback loop.
And the way corporations just rebrand, evolve, dodge accountability, it shows how deep these systemic problems run. They don't disappear, they just morph.
They adapt, like a virus finding a new host. It's the resilience of bad systems.
So, again, questions for you to mull over. Can you spot other examples where fear or crisis gets monetized, maybe in less obvious ways?
Beyond pandemics or biotech, maybe cybersecurity, climate change solutions that benefit specific monopolies.
And what about outsourcing public services, like health or safety? How does relying on private companies for those things affect our ability to respond well and fairly when a big crisis hits?
Does it make us more vulnerable? Does it shift the focus from public good to private gain, even when lives are on the line? It's something Resident Evil forces us to think about.
Now, something I find really compelling is how the audience interacts with all this. Fans aren't just playing a game.
No, they're digging deep, interpreting, analyzing.
Yeah, the internet is full of it. Fan communities speaking back, dissecting the lore, the characters with real intellectual energy.
You see these amazing comments, these insights like, Resident Evil is corporate horror dressed up as survival horror.
That nails it. It's not just about escaping monsters, it's escaping the corporate monsters.
Or this one. It's not about zombies, it's about the systems that pretend to be human.
Yeah. And that heartbreaking one about Raccoon City. Raccoon City didn't fall, it was abandoned. Captures that sense of betrayal.
And what's amazing is how fans take it beyond just plot summary. They use serious critical tools.
Like academic theories.
Yeah. Our sources mention fans pulling in political theory, trauma studies, disability analysis, environmental ethics. It's sophisticated stuff.
So, like, give me an example.
Well, some analyses read Jill Valentine's ordeal in RE3 being constantly hunted by Nemesis as an allegory for burnout.
Burnout. In systems that demand too much.
Exactly. Systems that expect infinite endurance. Using her struggle against this relentless monster to talk about a very modern, very real psychological strain in our own world. It's powerful.
That is incredible. And it's not just essays, right? It's everywhere online.
Everywhere. You've got TikTok creators making short, sharp videos comparing the Umbrella logo to real-world pharma branding. spotting that creepy familiarity.
Highlighting the manipulation in plain sight.
Then you have Reddit threads where people meticulously analyze the in-game files, finding lore details they see as predictive allegory for bioethical debates.
Like the game saw future problems coming, genetic engineering, what it means to be human.
Stuff like that. And on YouTube, forget about it. One example was a 45-minute video called Capitalism, Control, and the T-Viruses.
Oh.
And apparently it felt less like a fan theory and more like a university lecture on 21st century risk society. How our complex systems create new kinds of danger.
That's the power of pop culture, that it's not just escapism, it's a platform for serious commentary.
Absolutely. And that's the first key insight from this fan echo. Pop culture, even horror games, can be a powerful mirror for our anxieties. For complex, real-world stuff, it sparks critical thinking.
And insight, too. The fans themselves, through collective discussion and analysis, they elevate it. They turn entertainment into a space for socio-political critique.
They're not just consuming, they're co-creating meaning, pushing us all to think harder about the stories we engage with. It's like this amazing, decentralized critical engine.
So, for you listening, what other pop culture stuff, games, movies, shows, books, music, do you see getting this kind of deep, critical reinterpretation from its audience?
And more personally, how does engaging with fan theories or discussions like this one change your understanding of a story?
Ever had that moment where a fan insight just clicks and makes you see something familiar in a totally new way?
Okay, we've covered the system, the human response, the mutated economy, the fan echo. Let's bring it home. Let's talk about the monsters themselves.
Because there's this core truth, right? Especially in horror. Monsters are metaphors. They always have been.
It's fundamental. And in Resident Evil, the real fear, the lasting fear, isn't just the creature itself, the zombie, the licker, the tyrant.
As scary as they are.
As scary as they are. But the true terror, the one that sticks with you, is why that creature exists at all.
The reason behind the monster.
Precisely. The terrifying questions aren't just what is it, but why is it? Who funded this thing?
Who tested it, ignoring every ethical line?
Who covered it all up? Suppressed the truth? And maybe the worst part, who eventually tried to sell it as a cure, as progress?
This isn't just fantasy plot points. This is about accountability.
Exactly. Tracing the horror back to the human decisions. The choices made in boardrooms, in labs, in government offices, not just in some dark alley, looking beyond the monster to the machine that built it.
And that's the feeling you get, I think, when you really engage with these games over time. You replay them, you connect the dots.
You start to see the pattern.
And you realize you're not just fighting bioweapons. You're fighting the logic that built them.
You're fighting the greed, the hubris, the negligence, the systemic disregard for life that allowed these things to happen.
The zombies and tyrants are just the symptoms, the horrifying, deadly symptoms of a deeper sickness.
A sickness in the logic, the system's logic. That's the real enemy.
So the key insights here feel pretty fundamental. One, the scariest monsters aren't always the ones you can see. They're the invisible failures, the ethical collapses, the systemic flaws that create the visible monsters.
The monster is the consequence, not the root cause.
And two, real horror is in that logic, the why behind the monster, and whether anyone is ever held accountable for it.
The human decisions, the human systems, that's where the true terror lies. Which makes us ask, what monstrous logic are we living with?
Which is the big pressing question for all of us, right? How do we get better at seeing these structural monsters in our own world? These background logics, these system failures that cause so much harm, but often hide in plain sight.
What are those invisible forces shaping our problems? And maybe even more vital, what role does real accountability for individuals, corporations, governments play in stopping these fictional nightmares from becoming real?
Is it just about individuals being better, or do we need to fundamentally challenge the systems themselves, demand accountability on a massive scale?
As we wrap this up, it's worth thinking about why Resident Evil still feels so potent, so relevant. Our source material argues it didn't just end with the last game release.
No, it didn't end with Village. It didn't end with Wesker. It keeps going.
Because the world that inspired it keeps going, keeps evolving in ways that sometimes feel scarily familiar.
We're living now in, as the source puts it, an age of algorithmic pandemics, where bad ideas, misinformation spread like viruses online.
Infecting minds, dividing societies. We're facing biotech futures where the power to reshape life itself brings incredible promise, but also terrifying risks. The line between helping and harming gets blurry.
And we definitely see weaponized crisis, where instability, fear, disasters are exploited for power or profit.
And just like Umbrella, still, so many systems promise safety while designing for survival of the powerful. The game, in a way, is still being played out right now in our world.
So what's the takeaway? When you engage with stories like this, whether it's Resident Evil or something else exploring these themes?
Pause for a second. Realize you're not just escaping, you're practicing.
Practicing what?
Practicing seeing. Fiction alone, yeah, it won't save us from real-world problems, from systemic failures or abuses of power, but it does something crucial.
It warns us.
It warns us. It shines a light. It teaches us how to see the cracks in the systems around us, how power works, how trust is broken.
Because, and this is the final chilling thought from our source, the true horror is never the monster.
It's the system that insists it's normal.
That normalization of the destructive, the unethical, that's the real danger.
So stay awake, stay critical, and maybe most importantly, stay human.